I've watched founders make the same expensive mistake over and over again. They hire a salesperson before they're actually ready. And 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work. Not because they hired the wrong person, because they had not built the 3 things that give that person a chance to succeed. I know this because I made the same mistake myself, and I've watched it play out with founder after founder since. There's a pattern, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly what those 3 things are and how to build them before you make that hire. I'm Mark from Rice Revenue Consulting. I help B2B founders build their first real sales foundation. If you're thinking about hiring your first sales rep in the next 6 to 12 months, watch this whole thing first. It could save you $80,000 and 6 months of pain. I'm not exaggerating that number. That's what a bad first sales hire actually costs when you add up salary, commission draws, onboarding time, the deals that slipped while you were figuring out what wasn't working. Let's get into it. Thing 1, document how a deal actually happens. Right now, sales lives in your head. You close on instinct in relationships. You know when something feels right. You know what questions to ask. You know how to read a room. The problem is a new rep can't replicate what they can't see. I worked with a founder a while back, solid product, real traction, 3 years in the business. He was ready to hire, or so he thought. His new rep started on a Monday. By Friday, the rep was asking him, how do you actually find your leads? What do you say on the first call? What happens when someone pushes back on price? The founder didn't have answers, not written ones anyway. He kept saying, it depends, because in his head, it did depend. But a new rep can't operate on it depends. They parted ways 4 months later, $80,000 gone. So here's what I want you to do. Write down the answers to these questions right now before you post a single job listing. How do you find a lead? What's your first outreach? What do you actually say? What questions do you ask in discovery? What objections come up and how do you handle them? How do you close? This doesn't need to be a 40-page manual. A 1-page deal map is more than enough to start. But it has to exist somewhere outside your head. If you can't write it down, your rep can't learn it. Thing 2, define your ideal customer profile very specifically. Not B2B companies. That's not an ICP. That's a wish. I spent 3 months working with a founder who had 200 prospects on his list. Great list, wrong list. We worked through the outreach, refined the messaging, ran the discovery calls. 12 conversations later, nothing closed. So we stopped and went backwards. We pulled up 3 deals he had closed in the last year. The ones that came in fast, stayed long, and never complained about price. They had nothing in common with the list we had been working off of. Wrong industry, wrong size, wrong buying trigger. His real ICP was not who he thought it was. It was hiding inside those 3 deals that had already worked. So we scrapped the list and built a new one. The next 2 months looked completely different. Here's the exercise. Pull your last 3 to 5 closed deals right now. Ask yourself, who buys faster? Who stays longest? Who refers others? Then get specific. What industry? What company size? What's the title of the person who actually signs? And most importantly, what happened in their world just before they were ready to buy? That trigger event is everything. Your rep needs to know who to call. Give them a dartboard, not a blank wall. Okay, thing 3, know your pipeline number. What activity creates a deal? How many calls turn into meetings? Then how many meetings turn into proposals? How many proposals turn into closed business? If you don't know this, your rep won't know what good looks like, and you won't either, which means you won't be able to tell if you're performing or not until it's too late. I've seen founders 3 months into a rep's tenure saying, I think it's going okay, but with no data to back that up. Then at month 5 hits, there's still nothing in the pipeline, and suddenly it's a crisis. You can avoid that entirely. Here's how. Take your last 10 closed deals, reverse engineer them. How did they start? How long did each stage take? What was the average deal size? What was your close rate? The pattern is already there. You just have to look at it. Once you have those numbers, you can set real expectations with a new rep. You can tell them, here's what your first 30 days looks like. Here's what your first 60 days looks like. Here's what I expect to see in the pipeline by month 3. That's how you manage a rep, and that's how you succeed. Without those numbers, you're paying someone to guess, and they will leave. That brings us to the payoff. When you have these 3 things in place, a documented deal process, a specific ICP, and a clear pipeline number, your first hire has a real chance. Not a hope, a real chance. The founders who do this work first are the ones that call me 6 months later and say, the rep is ahead of plan. Always the kind of phone calls you want to get. The ones that skip it call me 6 months later asking how to let somebody go. Not as good. Build the foundation first, then hire. If you want help building any of these 3 things, well, that's exactly what I do. The link to connect with me is in the description below. The next video, I'm going to show you what a simple 1-page sales process actually looks like. The deal map I just mentioned. Subscribe so you don't miss it. And one question for you before you go. Which of these 3 do you feel least confident about right now? Tell me in the comments. I'll answer every single one personally.